future. But we do have agency over the future, and that is the tension between the two. And I think that we are incredibly lucky that people like Sam are helping to transform humanity's prospects for the future. I don't think anyone in this room thinks the world will be a better place if there wasn't AI. But we have choices now, and the choice we need to make is how to harness it so that it is a force for good. I actually think that means talking to countries like China, because one of the ways it would be a force for bad is if it just became a tool in a new geostrategic superpower race with much of the energy put into weapons rather than things that could actually transform our daily lives. And those are choices we make, and one of the ways that you avoid that happening is by having a dialogue with countries like China over common ground. But I think we should, whilst being humble about not being able to predict the future, remember that we do have control over the laws, the regulations. We have the ability to shape this journey. And I think we should also look at history and say, look at the Industrial Revolution, the computer revolution. Where those revolutions succeeded was where the benefits were spread evenly throughout society and not concentrated in small groups. In the case of AI, I would say the challenge is to make sure the benefits are spread throughout the world, north and south, developing world and developed world, and not just concentrated in advanced economies, because otherwise that will deepen some of the fractures that are already, in my view, taking us in the wrong direction.
Julie, what do you think about this? Because Accenture works all over the world. Do you think that this has the potential to create a kind of new arms race in technology?
Again, being practical, one would hope, given we've all learned the lessons of having different regulations in data privacy, that we would spend as much time thinking, can we find common ground and use this to work with some of the places where we are having these around something that is objectively necessary if you want to have any kind of globalization, to say, let's have common standards. So on the optimist side of me says, let's use this as a way of collaboration, taking out some of the geopolitics of it, because there is really good sense in it. I'm reminded in this conversation, we have a leadership essential at Accenture that I try to look at every day. It says, lead with excellence, confidence, and humility. And Jeremy, you just talked about being humble. I think one of the most important things we all have to do as leaders and countries is have a good sense of humility around this. Make sure we're talking to each other. That's why Davos is so important. It's why the work we just did together with KPMG and PwC and the WEF on trust and digital trust and learning and reading. I think there's a lot we have to do to educate ourselves and then try to start to think differently.
Albert, for you, when you look at, how do you think China will regulate medicine in a different way, or some of these issues? We've had the issue come up with gene editing, where there was that famous case of a Chinese doctor who decided to try to do gene editing to prevent AIDS, and the Chinese government actually jailed him because of a global convention. Could you imagine something like that happening with AI?
I don't know what can happen with AI. As some said, nobody knows. And I don't know how China eventually will think about those things. What I know it is that in life sciences, China is making tremendous progress. Right now, I think there are even more biotechs in China than exist in the US, or in the UK, or in Europe. I think the Chinese government is committed to develop basic science in life sciences. And I think in a few years we'll start seeing the first new molecular entities coming from China and not from the US.
Wow. All right, I'm going to close by asking a slightly...
Let me put it this way, not only from the US,
yeah.
because US will continue to produce.
I'm going to close by asking a question slightly unrelated to all this, but Sam, you were involved in what is perhaps the most widely publicized boardroom scandal in recent decades. What lesson did you learn from that, other than trust Satya Nadella?
Sam, at least he's asking you when you only have 42 seconds left. So, you know.
You can take more. I think people will wait to hear this answer.
I mean, a lot of things. I'm trying to think what I can say.
Be honest.
At some point, you just have to laugh. Like, at some point, it just gets, it's so ridiculous. But I think, I mean, I could point to all the obvious lessons that you don't want to leave important. You don't want important but not urgent problems out there hanging. And, you know, we had known that our board had gotten too small, and we knew that we didn't have the level of experience we needed. But last year was such a wild year for us in so many ways that we sort of just neglected it. I think one more important thing, though, is as the world gets closer to AGI, the stakes, the stress, the level of tension, that's all going to go up. And for us, this was a microcosm of it, but probably not the most stressful experience we ever face. And one thing that I've sort of observed for a while is every one step we take closer to very powerful AI, everybody's character gets like plus 10 crazy points. It's a very stressful thing, and it should be, because we're trying to be responsible about very high stakes. And so I think that one lesson is as we, the whole world, get closer to very powerful AI, I expect more strange things, and having a higher level of preparation, more resilience, more time spent thinking about all of the strange ways things can go wrong, that's really important. The best thing I learned throughout this, by far, was about the strength of our team. When the board first asked me, like the day after firing me, if I want to talk about coming back, my immediate response was no, because I was just very pissed about a lot of things about it. And then, you know, I quickly kind of like got to my senses, and I realized I didn't want to see all the value get destroyed and all these wonderful people who had put their lives into this and all of our customers. But I did also know, and I had seen it from watching the executive team and really the whole company do stuff in that period of time. Like, the company would be fine without me. The team, you know, either the people that I hired or how I mentored them or whatever you want to call it, like, they were ready to do it. And that was such a satisfying thing, both personally about, you know, whatever I had done, but like knowing that all of us, the whole team, had built this like unbelievably high functioning and tight organization. That was my best learning of the whole thing.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We're done. Sam, I want you.